While on the battlefield fighting and slaying the goblins, she feels cowardly and timid. But she encourages it herself. She screams that she wants to become stronger, to support her teacher. She is tired of being weak. She forges ahead to slay the goblins in front of her. At that point, teacher says he just wishes he can protect Fran. He says he doesn't want her to get weak and tired, and he needs to protect her. But she isn't making it easy. He acknowledges that his friend is no longer the weak friend he knows. Fran is now much more confident. She runs towards the goblins, she slays them, and talks to teacher. She asks him to please support her as she goes on her new journey of becoming stronger. She's determined to do this, and he pledges to support her. He tells her to forge ahead and keep killing. He insists that he will protect her from the attack. The confidence in Fran has skyrocketed. It is as though she now has a 100% increase in strength. As she continues her adventure, one of the goblins successfully throws an arrow at her. As she is about to fall, teacher interferes. He calls the healing powers of his sword, and he heals her. He tells her to forge ahead immediately and continue her fight. It is also worth noting that he is so proud of her, and he wants her to get stronger. After killing over 100 goblins, she is covered in blood and she's shattered, she's weak, and she stands around the sword. Teacher finds out she's now increased to level 12, and Fran has eventually leveled up while drenched in blood and sweat. Fran returns to the city with her sword. She goes to Gurus, the weapon repairer. Gurus asks her who she had slain and where she's coming from, which makes her that weak. She tells him she's just coming from an adventure. Gurus asks her how many goblins she killed, but she lost count. She tells him she doesn't know, and teacher replies that they have killed over 100. Teacher asks Gurus if he can help them repair their weapon despite the short notice. He tells Gurus that they have another adventure to break the home of goblins, and they need the sword. Gurus replies affirmatively. They narrate how their day went to Gary, those who listen with all sense of attentiveness while also working on their weapon. It turns out that before they return home in the evening, someone takes them toward a hideout or home of goblins. As Fran is about to enter, having kept on her fight armor, she tells teacher that she is going to go in. But teacher stops her. He tells her it's late and they are tired. He tells her that she should gather the reward for the day's hunt, and they should use it to renew their strength before returning home. As they're about to do that, a team of adventurers walks toward them. One of them asks Fran if she has single-handedly destroyed all the goblins. Then they say if she could kill those goblins, then she could rank in the same category as a rank D adventurer. The question made it seem like she didn't want to answer it, so she changes the conversation and talks about the goblin nest. She tells them there's a goblin nest in that place, and she thinks there are several high-leveled goblins there. However, when one of the adventurers looks at the place, he says that there was nothing like a nest there about a month ago, and that can't be a nest, it's a dungeon. She attempts to ask for their help to defeat the goblins, but they tell her that the guild leader is asking for her, so she should return to the city. She asks what they will do to make the nest, and they tell her they will guard it till she gets back, so she shouldn't worry herself. She goes to meet the guild leader, and she explains her experience. She tells him of how she saw several goblins. Her explanation is sketchy and it's getting Donna drawn angry. Donna drawn screams at her, asks her how many goblins and hobgoblins she saw, and tells her she should give them a specific number. The guild leader also interferes. He asks her to give a specific number, and she tells him she saw over 130 goblins and 30% hobgoblins. The guild leader asks her if the goblins ran while she fought them, but she tells him they didn't run, they stayed with her until she killed them all. The guild leader figures that for the goblins not to run, it's because there is nowhere for them to go, and that's because there are probably stronger goblins in the nest. She tells him the words of the adventurer dwarf and tells the guild leader that there is probably a dungeon in the forest. Donadran takes it as a sign of an imminent fight. The guild leader shares the same fear. He tells Donadran to immediately organize a group of adventurers from rank F to the top, and these adventurers should take the responsibility of fighting the dungeon. The guild leader tells Fran that for her involvement in bringing such a thing to their notice, he will promote her to rank F so she can go with the team warriors. She protests that she hasn't completed her missions for rank G, but he tells her that for her to single-handedly defeat that many goblins, she deserves the promotion, and they are in the middle of a pandemic, so they do not need the usual rules. They narrate this to Gurus. He congratulates her on her promotion and tells her it's well deserved. He puts a crystal by the weapon they want to repair, and it immediately repairs itself. He gives the weapon back to them, and teacher is shocked as to how fast it was repaired. Gurus tells teacher that the crystal works as a catalyst, and its mana works by instantly repairing any weapon. He says the crystal diminishes as it's used, and teacher asks for the price. Gurus tells him the crystal is an arcane blacksmith skill, and it's very potent. Fran isn't interested in that conversation. She asks Gurus what a dungeon means, and that's what her mind has been on ever since that conversation with the adventurers. Gurus satisfies her quest for knowledge and tells her a dungeon is a punishment from the god of chaos. It's just like the god of chaos is determined to test humanity, so the god of chaos sends a dungeon to Earth. The first step of the process is to first send a dungeon crystal. This crystal will draw all the strongest monsters in the forest to the place, and they will all become leaders. Not only are these monsters strong, but they are also given strength by God. Also, it is rumored that gold and diamond are always in the dungeon. He tells them the gold and valuable things in the dungeon serve as the god of chaos's gift to any courageous person who gets to defeat the monsters in the dungeon. As Gurus finishes his story, naive Fran asks him if the god of chaos is good or evil. Gurus tells some people see the god of chaos as good. As she comes outside, Gurus cheers them up for the mission ahead of them. He tells teacher that he will make a scabbard for him ahead of the mission. As they leave, he tells them to make a landmark during their subjugation. As they go home, teacher takes his time to check out Fran's new achievement. She's now a level 12 skilled mage. She has the sword spirit, and she has also gotten the new title of Goblin Killer, a title which is usually given to any adventurer who kills 100 goblins. However, irrespective of her achievement, she's also tired. Teacher says that his healing magic can't heal mental and emotional exhaustion and asks her to rest. But she tells him she needs to take her bath. He tells her to go, but she asks that he follow her. He refuses the offer and tells her he doesn't want to take his bath, but she insists. She says they had both gone through a stressful day, and they both deserve a bath. She drags him to the bathhouse. At the bathhouse, teacher wonders if Kat also likes to bathe. He asks her if she likes to take her baths, and she replies affirmatively. As she bathes him, Nell arrives. Nell tells her she has disobeyed the law by bringing her weapon to the bathhouse, and tells her her weapon isn't allowed. They apologize to her, and they go to eat at the table. Fran tells Nell that she had a stressful day with her sword, which is why she decided to take a bath for her sword, and apologized again. Nell tells her she heard Fran is also going for the goblin subjugation. She encourages Fran and tells her she knows she will do well. However, she begs Fran not to overexhaust herself. She says if these stupid deputy captains had assigned knights for the guild leader, then the burden of killing goblins in the dungeon won't be on the adventurers. She explains that the deputy leaders have the responsibility of picking a team for such a purpose. She also says if a man is around, then the mission will be a walk in the park. Trust Fran to ask her who Amanda is. She explains that Amanda Heratai is a rank A adventurer, and ice among them all, but she has been given the mission of going to Mara Plains to investigate the calamity teacher had caused. Fran throws her question to Nell. She asks her if the god of chaos is good. So Nell tells her the creation story according to Nell. 12 gods visit Earth to create the Earth. They all add their quota to it, and the god of chaos also does hers by creating several issues on Earth so humans can keep competing and evolving. Fran asks if there is a god of war, and Nell tells her there is a god of war. However, the god of war is greedy, and he has an obsession with power so much that he becomes evil and fights his colleagues. They defeat him and scatter his remains all over the Earth. However, the Earth couldn't take it, so his remains turned to the monsters on Earth. Fran is already feeling sleepy, so she goes home to sleep. The next day, which is the battle day for Fran and teacher, they visit Gurus. He shows them a very pretty scabbard which he made for teacher. Teacher is so excited that he jumps into it. Gurus shows them there's a way teacher can come out of the scabbard without Fran's help. They join the other adventurers, and Donadrin, the leader of the team, tells them they have to defeat the king and queen first, then the dungeon master. As they prepare for their attack, the goblins come to attack. Teacher tells Fran to join the warriors in fighting. As she gets to the lower goblins, they run away from her as they have seen she's a goblin slayer. She saves one of her colleagues from dying, but teacher can't use the crystal from the killed goblin in public. So he tells her to go to the dungeon. The dungeon is filled with goblins, so she jumps using the midair jump which they have obtained from one of their fights. She uses the tri-explosion to destroy some of the goblins before moving forward to use Fire Blast. She attempts to enter the dungeon and kill the king and queen. On the other hand, in the dungeon master celebrates that he has caught the humans unaware, but he doesn't